And that's how you make chicken soup. Hi, everybody. It is I, Steve, the Baxman Baxley. Welcome aboard the most unpredictable little showgram we have for you tonight. Why? Because it's Sunday. And a lot of things happen on Sunday. By the way, a happy birthday to my friend Elihu, part of the Sunday Fun Day crowd uh, on Chris on Chris's Real Review 3000 channel. Just go to YouTube, look up Real REEL Review 3000. You'll find it. Okay, we're here. Why don't we do sports? Harry is off because he is getting ready to uh, give us the marvelous thing. He's going to prepare the Monsignor Rabbi Hiram Shecky Fleischman for his third year of predictions for football games. Wow, we're all good. And yes, we are live. So, except, so leave us stop talking and start going. And we are going to go first to National Football League, give you the scores from week number two. That means we're one more week away from football. Actual, real football that counts. So here we go. Everything, of course, is finale. So let's rock this puppy, shallst we? Yahudi. I'm having a great day, Nancy. I survived my latest trip to the emergency room. They found nothing, but they did tell me to just take it easy, continue to take my meds, etc. It was scary, but I'm glad I'm here. Let's get you to some scores before we hit up some headlines. This is week two preseason. Let's rock and ride. Tennessee beats Seattle 19-16. Detroit has come back and they won Saturday night 17-13 over Washington. How's this for a score? Finals, every one of these. Atlanta 34, Indianapolis 6, Baltimore 13, Minnesota 3, Buffalo 31, Cleveland 7. I'm saving one score for last. You will not believe this. I guarantee. The Giants got off the schneid. They beat Miami 26-3. Miami is 0-2 in the preseason, but then again, preseason doesn't count. By the way, how do you like this? This is a compression shirt I got at Under Armour and the Great Lakes Crossing. It's very good. Tampa Bay beat Kansas City 16-15. Dallas whopped Arizona 34-13. Jets blanked Pittsburgh 17-0. Carolina upended Jacksonville 34-17. Green Bay defeated Denver by 20, 33-13. Vegas, baby, beat Houston by a deuce 22-20. And San Francisco, open your Golden Gate. You just closed in on the Chargers of LA 41-17. Wow. That was a score. Now, let's get going here. Bam. We're going to have to talk about the WNBA, so why not? In Chicago, oh boy, as if the WNBA didn't have any problems, like making a profit, keeping Stephanie White as coach of the Indiana Fever, referees not looking when Caitlin Clark gets thugged by the opponent, or when Sophie Cunningham gets clotheslined by a demented player. Well, this is going to top it all. Former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom. Okay, I better shout, not shout. Former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom was ejected from his courtside seat during the Indiana Fever's 113-90 win over the Chicago Sky on Sunday after getting into a verbal altercation with Sky guard Natasha Cloud. Late in the third quarter, Cloud drove to the basket and converted a tough finish that drew a timeout from Fever coach, I should paraphrase, from embattled Fever coach Stephanie White. As players from both teams went to their respective benches, Cloud began pointing and yelling at Kanter Freedom, who stood up and walked towards the court. An official and security personnel immediately jumped in, and Cloud's teammates arrived to pull her away from the situation. The official gestured for Kanter Freedom to be ejected, and both team and arena security escorted him away from his seat. He tried to protest in an area behind the courtside seating for a short period before eventually leaving to a chorus of boos and middle fingers. After Sunday's game, Natasha Cloud did not speak with the media. That's fine. She did meet with team and league security. This is what she said. Sky coach Tyler Marsh said in his post-game presser. Quote, I talked to the team and Tosh didn't want to feel like she was a distraction. Too late. Told her she wasn't. I told her we all embraced her as someone who protects our team and people who need to be protected. Tosh is always going to stand on that, and we stand for Tosh. There's so many good things about this league. What has he been smoking? And so many good things about the play of these players that if you come to a game, you should probably come to enjoy the basketball. We try to, but there's too much drama going on. That's self-inflicted. Now, quote, Marsh continued, that seems pretty simple to me. I think these players deserve that and have earned that. Being a former basketball player, you should probably understand and feel that too, end quote. Fever star Caitlin Clark said that she did not see the incident. Both she and Lexi Hall shook their heads no when asked if Kanter Freedom had said anything to them during the game. Embattled Fever coach Stephanie White said that it is, quote, important that people like you guys in this room don't give it any gas. It's a social media thing. Hey, Stephanie, it's too late. It's now a thing, and it's been a thing for a while. And it's not a social media thing. It's a thing that, well, could actually save your league from possibly folding. Anyway, it's not the first time that Cloud and Kanter Freedom have crossed paths. In 2023, the two went back and forth on social media after Cloud criticized the United States government. The WNBA has become a battleground. No, it hasn't. It's become a drama for the debate about transgender athletes over the last month after Fever guard Sophie Cunningham said in an ESPN profile that she wants to protect young girls in a locker room or young girls in sport who shouldn't have to go against biological men, end quote. Later, Cunningham doubled down prior to the Fever's win over the Connecticut Sun on July 22nd. Quote, I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense, and I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category. I stand on what I said. I see what she means, but this is one topic I don't want this program or my show to sort of get into. That's why we try to avoid it, but we can't because it's part of it now. Cunningham added that she doesn't dislike anyone and that there's room to love everyone. I'm also there to love biological women, and I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once stated that I hated the trans community. I happen to agree. No one hates people. People are people, no matter what. I have broken bread, so has my mom broken bread with the LGBTQ community. I respect them, and they respect us. Now, in the wake of Cunningham's comments, Conter Freedom has spent the past few weeks agitating to be eligible for the 2027 WNBA draft, along with fellow former NBA players Royce White. Both Cantor, Freedom, and White have claimed that they now identify as women. Now, the WNBA has never had a transgender player and does not have a public policy about transgender participation. The new CBA states simply that only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. Now, earlier this month, the WNBA convened a task force to discuss the issue and made a statement that read in part, quote, "We will approach these important conversations thoughtfully and in alignment with the values of our league. There are no immediate eligibility matters affecting the WNBA, and we strongly denounce the bad faith efforts to use these topics to demean or marginalize others. It's drama." The WNBA has literally become its own drama. Enough said on that. We don't need drama in pro basketball. And there you go. Now, speaking of the WNBA, their playoffs are coming up. There's still more than a month until the 2026 WNBA season regular comes to a close on September 24th, but just over 2 weeks of game action remains. That's because the league will pause from August 31st to September 16th for the 2026 FIBA Women's World Cup, which will run from September 4th to the 13th in Berlin, Germany. No team has more than 10 games remaining, and some have as few as 7. While the 8 playoff teams are largely set, the 8th place Wings have a 4.5 game lead on the expansion Portland Fire for the final spot. No team has locked in a seed, and there's still a lot to sort out in the middle of the playoffs, of the playoff or the playoff picture. And as final playoff push begins, here's how we predict, and CBS Sports predicts how things will shake out at the end of the season. Now, some teams have already clinched a playoff spot. Others continue to fight. Minnesota Lynx, they're in 30-7. Golden State Valkyries are 25-10. They're in. Indiana Fever are in third at 24-12. Not yet in. Las Vegas Aces have clinched a playoff spot at 24-13, one up on the Indiana Fever. Atlanta Dream still fighting, 22-13. They're in fifth. Sixth place, Washington Mystics, 21-14. Seventh place, New York Liberty, 22-15. And the Dallas Wings are 20-16. Now, here's how CBS Sports thinks the standings will shake out at the end of the season. Minnesota Lynx get the number 1 seed unless they crap out. Golden State Valkyries will get number 2. Vegas will get number 3. Indiana number 4. Atlanta number 5. Washington number 6. New York number 7. And Dallas number 8. The Liberty, by the way, are your defending champions. The Lynx, cruising to the number 1 seed, have won a franchise record 34 games last season to earn the same seed. Then lost 6 rotation players in the offseason, played without their leader, Nafisa Collier, who until late July this summer, and are going to be the number 1 seed yet again. The last two wins over the Aces on Saturday and over the Valkyries on Wednesday have all but locked up the top spot and home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Now, they have a 4-game lead over the Valkyries, and they own the tiebreaker between the teams, making the gap essentially 5 games. No other team is within 5.5. Even though the Lynx have the hardest remaining schedule, no one is going to catch them at this point. Now, the Valkyries are in the driver's seat for number 2. 6-game winning streak came to an end on Wednesday in a defeat to the self-professed Lynx and effectively ended their hopes of catching Minnesota. Still, they remain in the driver's seat for the number 2 seed, which would guarantee them home court advantage up until the finals. Golden State is 1.5 games up on third-place Fever, who lead the rest of the pack. And thanks to the tiebreaker, that is effectively a 2.5-game advantage for the Valkyrie. The Aces, who are 2 games back and own the tiebreaker with the Valkyries, are the only other team within 3 games. Now, the Fever are 2.5 games separate the third-place Fever from the 7th-place Liberty. And if there's a playoff seeding drama down the stretch, it's going to come from that group. After a frustrating start, the Fever have won 5 games in a row, and 12 of their last 16 to surge into 3rd place and are 1 victory away from a single-season record. They are 1.5 games back of the Valkyries for 2nd, but have lost that tiebreaker, so it's unlikely they'll move up. Rather, their focus will be on holding off the Aces and Dream to ensure they earn home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. They are a half game ahead of the Aces and 1.5 up on the Dream. They'll also have to keep an eye on the Mystics and Liberty with key games coming up against both clubs down the stretch. The Aces are 6-5 since the All-Star break and have lost 4 of their last 6 games to drop into 4th place. While it seemed they would challenge the Lynx for number 1 seed down the stretch, that hope has faded and has now gone. They still have a chance at the 2nd seed, however, while they're 2 games back on the Valkyries. They do own the tiebreaker there and have the easiest remaining schedule in the league. With only lottery teams remaining, the Aces could realistically run the table, which also puts number 3 in play. The Fever also own the tiebreaker there, but are only half a game up and makes it unlikely they'll fall below number 4. Earlier this week, the Dream secured a huge road win over the Aces, just their second over a playoff team since June, and remain in the mix for a top 3 seed. They're 1.5 games back of the Fever, tiebreaker to be determined, and 1 game back of the Aces, who lost the tiebreaker. They have an easy schedule down the stretch and have beaten up on lottery teams all season long, but can't get too comfortable when they're just 1 game up on both the Mystics and Liberty, and in their campaign with 2 games in New York. The Dream have lost the tiebreaker to Washington, and the tiebreaker with New York is to be determined. Atlanta might have the most possible outcomes. No one expected the Mystics to be in the playoffs this season, let alone battling for a top 4 seed. Now, it's unlikely they're going to catch the Fever or Aces, who are 2.5 games and 2 games up, respectful. But the fact that it's a possibility is remarkable for the youngest team in the league, especially considering the Mystics were a 500 team a month ago. Catching the Dream for 5th is more realistic since they're 1 game back and own the tiebreaker. But still, they have to watch out for the defending champion, New York Liberty. They're just percentage points back, and they own that tiebreaker. The Liberty were the preseason title favorites, but they have once again been beset by injuries and are stuck in 7th place. That should be their floor, given the Wings' issues. But can they climb in the standings? Well, it's possible. Just percentage points behind the Mystics and only 1 game back of the 5th place Dream, 2 games back of the 4th place Aces, and they own the tiebreaker with both Washington and Vegas, and still take the tiebreaker with Atlanta. They close the season with back-to-back games, home games against the Dream. It's just too hard to trust this team right now, however, and they have a much harder schedule than the 3 teams in front of them. Now, down at the bottom of the playoff picture are the Wings, who announced Wednesday the number 1 overall pick Aziz Fudd will undergo knee surgery and will miss the remainder of the season. This will be the fourth time that Fudd has gone under the knife on her right knee since 2019. Despite the absence and a 2-7 mark since the All-Star break, the Wings are almost certainly going to make the playoffs. They have a 4.5 game lead for the final spot over the ninth place Portland Fire. And even though there's one game remaining between the clubs that will determine their season series, it's hard to see the Fire catching up to them, especially when the Fire have the fourth hardest remaining schedule and the Wings have the second easiest. Now, in the event that two teams have the same record at the end of the season, the first tiebreaker is head-to-head record if necessary. The second tiebreaker is winning percentage against teams with a 500 or better record. The third tiebreaker is point differential in head-to-head games, and the fourth tiebreaker is points differential against all opponents. Now, here's the current tiebreaker picture. For the Lynx, they have the tiebreaker over the Valkyries. For the Valkyries, the tiebreaker over the Fever, Dream, Mystics, Liberty, and Wings, but they lost the tiebreaker to the Link and Aces. The Fever, they do have a tiebreaker over the Aces, and they did lose the tiebreaker over the Valkyries, and to be determined, the tiebreaker, Mystics, Liberty, and Wings. Aces had the tiebreaker over the Valkyrie, Dream, and Mystics, but they lost the tiebreaker to the Fever, Liberty, and Wings. The Dream have tiebreaker over the Wings, but they lost the tiebreaker over the Valkyries, Aces, and Mystics. But the tiebreakers to be determined are the Fever and the Liberty, and the Mystics have tiebreakers over the Dream and the Wings. They've lost the tiebreaker to the Valkyries, Aces, and Liberty, and the Fever is the only tiebreaker to be determined. Liberty, on the other hand, they got the tiebreaker over the Aces and Mystics. They did lose the tiebreaker over the Valkyries and Wings, and to be determined the tiebreaker of the Fever and the Dream and the Wings. Have the tiebreaker over the Aces and Liberty. They lost the tiebreaker over the Valkyrie, Dream, and Mystics, and still be determined the Fever. And in the event of three or more teams having the same record, which is a possibility, given how congested the standings are, things get a bit more complicated, and here's what the league has to say. Quote, if more than two teams tied, then as many teams will be eliminated at each stop. As soon as one or more teams are eliminated at any step, the process must begin again from step one. So the remaining strength of schedule, easiest to hardest, is based strictly on current opponent winning percentage. Aces are .273, Wings are .350, Valkyries are .433, Mystics are .449, Dream .463, Fever .544, Liberty .590, and the Lynx .593. That's a lot. And so we get out from our edition of As the WNBA Turns. And we get to our golf spot, or our golf rover. Scottie Scheffler revealed late Sunday that he struggled during competition at the 26th BMW Championship while dealing with the impact of hand, foot, and mouth disease. Scheffler, who completed his tournament at 7 under, played with blisters in his throat and on his hands, making it difficult to grip his club. Still, the world number one fought his way inside the top 15 in the final event of the season and the second leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Scheffler called himself stubborn, citing that characteristic and the importance of the BMW Championship as reasons he played all 4 rounds rather than withdrawing from the tournament to heal for next week's Tour Championship. He powered through and improved as the week progressed, registering 3 straight under par rounds after an opening 72. Hand, foot, and mouth disease is a virus that spreads easily from person to person through bodily fluids. It most commonly affects children under the age of 5, and adults often catch it from infected children, according to the lovely folks at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Schefflers have 2 children, each under 3 years old. Now, although he did not successfully defend his BMW championship title, Scheffler did finish the week as number 1 in the FedEx Cup standings, securing his place atop the bonus money distribution list. He will look for even more next week as the Tour Championships, where though every player will start at even par, Scheffler's name will be amongst the short list of potential winners. That's going to be fun. Do we have the leaderboard? Do we? Yes, we do. Let's give you the leaderboard. Clark, 17 under, first place. Cantlay, second at 14 under. McElroy, third at 13 under. We had a 3-way tie for fourth between Woodland, Morikawa, and Gunnerup at 12 under. We had a 2-way tie for seventh between McIntyre and McNeely at 10 under. Believe it or not, Bridgman was the only one not tied. He got ninth all to himself at 9 under. We had a 2-way tie for 10th between Brennan and Eam at 8 under. And that is a look at golf. Let's keep going. We want to get to as much sports as we can. And we've already done that. Okay, well, today in Live Golf, well, Live Golf is currently playing its final event of the 26th season in Indianapolis. And once Sunday's final round ends, the future of the tour is very much up in the air after losing its funding from the Saudi Arabia PIF earlier this year. The shocking news that the PIF was pulling the plug on its Live Golf investment came out mere days after the 26 Masters, as Live Golf was preparing for its event in Mexico City. Apparently, that timing wasn't a mere coincidence, but the events of the week prior in Augusta, Georgia, may have accelerated the PIF's decision to pull the plug. According to the Financial Times, Sergio Garcia's meltdown on the second tee on Sunday at the Masters embarrassed Yasir Al-Rumayyan, the governor of the PIF, who has been at the helm of Live Golf since its inception and played a role in his decision to pull the plug on the funding. And the report we give you. In April, as Live golfers floundered at the Masters, golf's most prestigious tournament, Spanish star Sergio Garcia damaged the Augusta National Golf Course during a fit of rage in the final round. People familiar with the matter say Rumayyan's embarrassment at the sequence of events helped lead to his decision to pull the plug on PIF's financing of the rival tours. The fund focuses more on its huge domestic commitment in the kingdom. A whole series of events from Sergio Garcia earlier on Sunday at the Masters. Slams his driver in frustration, breaks his driver against a cooler, carries Jon Rahm's bag while Rahm's caddy tends to a bunker. Garcia received a warning for violating the Major Championship new code of conduct and issued an apology afterwards. Rumayyan's desire to become a member at Augusta National has been well reported, and Garcia's tantrum did not reflect well on the Live Golf boss. As Joel Bialy of Golf Digest noted in wake of the FT report, Financial Times, by the way, the discussions internally about the PIF pulling its funding from Live Golf had begun prior to Garcia smashing his club, so it wasn't the cause of the decision. That said, given how hastily things have moved from that point with the PIF backing out within days of the final round of the Masters, it does seem fair to wonder if the incident accelerated the timeline. Now, declined to comment when asked by the Financial Times about the situation, and we'll likely never know for certain how significant a role it played. But it's wild to imagine that Garcia's matching his club on a Sunday morning at the Masters might have shifted billions of dollars in the golf industry and accelerated Leaf Golf's demise. But I have a feeling the PIF will be heard. As you know, the PIF is, and we use this term, allegedly financing a women's basketball league called Project B. Now, that league has already signed several WNBA players to multi-million dollar contracts. Again, reportedly. But should that be true, and with all the drama happening to the WNBA, including the treatment of both of their superstars, I speak of Sophie Cunningham and Caitlin Clark, and the future of the Indianapolis team head coach, Stephanie White, that may be the accelerant to accelerate Project B getting started earlier than advertised. Okay, let's get to Major League Baseball right now, get you to the scoreboard, and we'll get to the rest of the day in sports, and then hit you up with some entertainment news, and then we will say our goodnight. Hello, Matt, Ed, and Eddie. It's great to see you, and it's truly great to be seen. Okay, let's get you some scores from a big Sunday in Major League Baseball. Philadelphia defeated St. Louis 6-4. Tampa Bay over Baltimore 3-1. New York Yankees over the Toronto Blue Jays, almost said Maple Leafs 8-3. Miami over Washington 6-2. It wasn't Washington's night or day, hasn't been. Athletics over the Houston Astros 7-6. Kansas City owns Detroit 11-7. White Sox over the Mets 2-1. Texas over the Angels 5-3. Cleveland over Colorado 7-2. Boston over San Francisco 5-4. What about those Chicago Cubbies? They once again routed the Seattle Mariners 19-2. What a big score. San Diego over Minnesota 8-1. Dodgers over Pittsburgh 4-0. Arizona over Cincinnati 5-3. And Atlanta beating Milwaukee 4-2. Do we have time to check the standings in the MLB as we are counting down to the latest, or to the playoff race? Well, let's do it, but let's do it the proper way, folks. Then we'll get you some more scorage from the minor leagues, and then we will, grab the teleprompter so we can get the lovely little scorage. Okay. So try to find the scoreboard. Come on, boys.
If we don't have these scores from our regular scoring team, we will have to do it with ESPN. So let's just do it. Follow along as we please. And that's stupid. Give us a little moment, folks. Nope. Dang, come on. And we know there was. Okay, we got it now. Good. Here we go. All right. Damn, we went a little too far. Did we? Yes. Okay. Let's get one more tip. One more. There we go. Okay, here we go. The scores from the International League. And we're just going to go with the first names of the teams for time. Buffalo beat Lehigh Valley 10-2. Columbus beat St. Paul 8-5. Gwinnett beat Durham 7-2. Syracuse over Worcester 2-0. In a doubleheader featuring the Nashville at Norfolk, Nashville swept the double dip, beating Norfolk 2-0 in game one and doing it again in game two, 7-1 was the final score. Indianapolis over Louisville 6-0. Scranton Wilkes-Barre over Charlotte 9-5. What a way to make a living. Jacksonville over Memphis 6-2. Iowa over Toledo 4-2. And Rochester over Omaha 9-zip. In the Pacific Coast League, here we go. The action. Let's go bottom up. Reno and Salt Lake. Their game was canceled. Obviously, rotten weather. Vegas over Albuquerque 10-8. In 10 innings, Oklahoma City beat Sugar Land by a score of 1-0. Round Rock over El Paso 8-0. Eastern League action. Binghamton over Altoona 7-3. It took 7 innings, but the Reading Fighting Phils took care of Portland 10-3. Akron over Harrisburg 8-4. Richmond over Chesapeake 6-5. Somerset over Hartford 9-5. What a way to make another living. And Erie over New Hampshire 6-3. In the Southern League, Rocket City over Biloxi 8-1. Pensacola over Knoxville 4-3. And Columbus over Montgomery 7-2. And Birmingham over Chattanooga 4-2. Texas League action. Northwest Arkansas 7, San Antonio 2. Frisco over Wichita 12-3. Corpus Christi over Midland 3-1. In a doubleheader between Springfield and Arkansas, Springfield sprung in and swept them 4-2 in game one, 11-4 in game number two. And Amarillo over Tulsa 7-4. In the Midwest League, here are the scores: Wisconsin over Lake County 7-5. South Bend 3, West Michigan 2, Cedar Rapids 7, Beloit 1. Lansing blanked Peoria by a score of 5-0. Great Lakes over Fort Wayne 2-zip. And Quad Cities melted down Dayton 12-3. Northwest League action, top of the eighth. Tri-City leads Everett by a score of 6-3. Hillsboro over Spokane 14-6. And Eugene over Vancouver 6-5. South Atlantic League action. Hub City over Rome 3-1. Brooklyn over Asheville 12-1. Hudson Valley over Jersey Shore 5-4. Frederick over Wilmington 7-2. Greenboro over Bowling Green 11-5. Winston-Salem over Greenville 12-5. California League action. Here's a big score. Visalia over Rancho Cucamonga 20-2. Fresno over Stockton 10-5. No, excuse me, 10-9 in 11 innings. Ontario over Inland Empire 11-1, and San Jose over Lake Elsinore 5-0. Carolina League action. Kannapolis over Fredericksburg 17-4. Hickory over Delmarva 4-2. In a doubleheader between Hill City and Charleston, Hill City swept it 6-7. Excuse me, they split. They split. Charleston over Hill City in game one 7-6, but Hill City got their revenge, beating Charlotte. Excuse me, not Charlotte, Charleston. I'm going fast. My apologies, folks. Let's try that score again. Charleston beat Hill City 7-6. Hill City reversed that by beating Charleston by a score 7-5. Wilson over Salem 17-8 or 17-8. Augusta over Columbia 3-1. In another double dip, Fayetteville against Myrtle Beach. Fayetteville swept. In the first game, Fayetteville beat Myrtle Beach 6-2. In the second game, Fayetteville beat Myrtle Beach 6-1. Florida State League action. Jupiter and Bradenton were canceled. Dunedin and Clearwater were canceled. And Daytona and Tampa were canceled, all weather related. Lakeland defeated St. Lucie 12-2. And Palm Beach over Fort Myers 3-1. Major League Baseball Draft League action. It was Williamsport over Aberdeen 12-3. Mahoning over Trenton 6-1. State College over West Virginia Mountain Mamas. They got taken home in a loss 11-4. In American Association Baseball, minor league still going on. Kansas City over Sioux Falls 8-6. Sioux City, the Explorers, over Winnipeg 4-2. Chicago over Gary South Shore 9-8. Lincoln over Fargo Moorhead 4-3. Milwaukee over Cleburne 5-1. And Lake County squeaked by Kane County by 2, 16-14. They took a little trip. In the Atlantic League, Gastonia in 10 innings beat Charleston 5-4. York over High Point 11-5. Long Island over Lancaster 10-5. Hagerstown over Southern Maryland 5-2. Lexington over Staten Island 7-6. Frontier League action. Everything is a final in the Frontier League. Let's go to it. Stockton over New York Boulders 7-5. Trois Rivières over Down East 4-0. Gateway over Windy City 9-4. Tri-City and the New Jersey ended in a 6-6 tie in 11 innings. Joliet over Washington 7-3. Quebec over Sussex County 12-7. Evansville over Florence 11-8. Mississippi 23. Ottawa 14. And Lake Erie over Schaumburg 5-3. Pioneer League, yeah, we got some for you. Here we go, another double dip, and another sweep by Idaho Falls over Red Pocket, 4-3, game one, and Idaho shot up Red Pocket 15-8. Billings over Great Falls 22-18, another double dip. And Yuba Sutter swept them all, beating Ogden in game one, 12-7. And it got a little close in the second game, but still Yuba Sutter won 12-9 over Ogden. Glacier Range over Boise Hawks 11-4. Modesto over Oakland 18-4. Missoula over Long Beach by a score of 13-4. We've already given you the scores of the WNBA. If you forgot them, here they are again. Dallas over Seattle, 92-70. Indiana over Chicago, 113-90. Washington over Portland, 105-100. And Las Vegas over Toronto, 88-78. Canadian football action. BC Lions over Saskatchewan, 30-16 in Major League Soccer action. New York and New England ended up in a 1-1 tie. Atlanta beat Sporting Kansas City 2-1. Major League Soccer Next Pro League. Connecticut United beat Philadelphia Union second unit 4-2. Inter Miami second unit lost to the Chicago Fire second unit 3-1. Crown Legacy over Chattanooga Football Club 3-1. Columbus Crew lost to Huntsville 2-1. No, Columbus Crew won at Huntsville. No, Huntsville defeated Columbus 1-0. That's what I'm trying to say. Red Bull New York beat Toronto 5-1. Houston Dynamo and the St. Louis City Soccer Club ended in a 2-2 tie, but in penalty kicks, the Dynamo swept the floor with St. Louis 3-1. Portland and Ventura County tied at 2. In penalty kicks, Portland kicked Ventura 4-2 for the final score. Colorado over Rio Monarchs 4-1. Austin over San Jose 1-0. In Canadian Premier League action, Quebec and Toronto ended up in a 1-1 tie. In the National Women's Soccer League action, Chicago over Louisville 3-2. Orlando over Washington 1-0. Bay over Houston 1-0. And Angel City and New Jersey, New York ended in a goose egg tie. In the Northern Super League, these were your final scores or score. Calgary and Montreal ended in a 2-2 tie. And that is your look at the sports section. Let's get you over to Deadline.com, get you how good the box office was, and update you on a lot of other things. Well, it was a Sony double feature at the box office. This weekend belonged to Sony, or at least the top 2 spots in the box office belonged to Sony. And with Marvel Studios' Spider-Man Brand New Days, fourth frame at $39 million at 4,006 sites, and Screen Gems, Blumhouse, Atomic Monsters Stage. Stage 6 is Insidious Out of the Further, opening to $25.3 million at 3,303 theaters. Running Cume EOD for Brand New Day, Destin Daniel Cretton and Zendaya's highest grossing movie ever, is at close to $900 million, to be exact, 854.9 or $855 million. The movie is 3.4 million away from surpassing Avengers Endgame, which ended at $858.3 million, and becoming the second highest grossing movie ever at the domestic box office. Now remember, though, that Russo Brothers title is getting a reissue in September. Endgame at 2.7 billion worldwide, remains Tom Holland's top grossing movie. And what a difference a year makes. A year ago, Sony had the adult skewing Darren Aronofsky caper caught stealing, which unfortunately didn't find an audience. It had a lofty cost around $65 million before P&A opened to $7.8 million. It died at $19 million stateside and $33.2 million globally.
Okay, what's next? Oh, this is going to be beautiful. What's next for ABC versus the FCC? Lawsuit looks to put Trump attacks on trial, but the first battle may be about timing. ABC took the extraordinary step of suing the FCC on Tuesday, challenging its investigations of regulatory crackdowns as not merely a bureaucratic overreach, but part of a Trump administration retaliatory campaign in violation of the First Amendment. The case has the potential to be a major legal showdown over the FCC's authority and free speech if it gets to that point. The initial phase of the litigation, to which a judge will decide whether to grant ABC a temporary restraining order to halt an FCC early review of its broadcast station licenses, may be heavy in process. The agency has signaled that it will challenge the lawsuit is premature. In other words, the network has to let the regulatory process play out. The judge in this case, Lauren El Ali Khan, plans a hearing in October and set a briefing schedule for next month. The mere fact that ABC filed the case at all drew praise from First Amendment groups and figures like Anna Gomez, the sole Democrat on the commission, who have been sounding the alarm the corporation were capitulating to the Trump administration by the mere threat of regulatory action. The network decided to file the case after the FCC ordered ABC's 8 owned stations to submit to the early license renewal in late May, years ahead of schedule. A highly unusual action that the agency said was triggered by an ongoing investigation of the network's diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, citing Donald Trump's attacks on the network and comments from FCC Chairman Brendan Carr. ABC that said that the DEI probe is a mere pretext to punish the Walt Disney Company over its content. Its lawsuit lays out a narrative of the president's attacks, Carr's comments, and agent activity. The FCC is defending its actions as part of the regulatory oversight, with Carr often noting that broadcasters, including ABC, unlike other forms of media, still have to fulfill a public interest standard. Daniel Seward, lawyer for the Center for American Rights, a frequent ally to Carr, called the lawsuit a desperate attempt to short-circuit the FCC's investigation into its illegal and discriminatory employment practices. Now, what is this case about, you may ask? ABC has one cause of action in its lawsuit: violation of the First Amendment and retaliation for protected expression. At the center are the early license renewal proceedings, but the network argues that it is a punishment for editorial decisions and programming that the Trump administration doesn't like, whether that be continued employment of Jimmy Kimmel or guest on The View, or more recently, the decision last month to stream and not broadcast the president's primetime speech. What's at stake for ABC? The network said that each day it faces a choice between exercising independent editorial judgment or risking the loss of valuable broadcast license. Precisely the type of choice that chills protected First Amendment activity and cannot be remedied after the fact. As an example, the network's legal team wrote that The View has been bypassing political candidates as guests or even in clips, given, quote, the cumulative pressure from the FCC's multiple actions, end quote. The show is the focus of a separate investigation as to whether it needs to comply with the agency's equal time rule. As you know, The View, formerly a Barwall production, Barbara Walters and her partner, Bill Getty, owned the show until Barbara retired and sold the show to ABC News Productions, which is an arm of ABC News, which technically makes The View, which used to be more viewer-friendly, if you will, but has since, under ABC News, gone from being a lifestyle-type show to a more news and opinion show. We'll give you ABC's challenge on tomorrow. This is going to take a little while, and we got about 4 minutes left. So let's. Uh, Speaking of happenings, settlement talks with state attorney generals this week, and while Gavin Newsom weighs in on the merger. We'll give you more on that. Caroline Leavitt reveals post White House press secretary job. Rumors are that she will be part of Fox News. And Meghan Markle is eyed for a role in Guy Ritchie's Netflix series, The Gentleman. Though right now things may change on that. And Shelley Fabrez, the young woman who starred on the Donna Reed show and Elvis's leading lady, passed away at the age of 82. She is survived by her husband, MASH star Mike Farrell. And a remarkable family indeed. Okay, we got 2 minutes left. I think we have enough time for at least one little sports mark. Okay, boom. Here we go. And speaking of Warner Brothers Discovery, awful announcing reports that Paramount might be, try that again, 3, 2, 1. Paramount might be forced to part ways with some of its cable networks if it wants to complete its $110 billion acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery, according to a report by Joe Flint and Jessica Tunkel in the Wall Street Journal on Sunday night. California's Attorney General Rob Bonta, who along with his wife just passed a law which is waiting Gavin Newsom's signature, the Stop Nick Shirley law, which will also mean that the national and local California TV stations' investigative units will find it hard to investigate stories on fraud, cheating, and other assorted materials. Now, along with Mr. Bonta, along with 11 other states suing Paramount on antitrust grounds over its planned acquisition of Warner Brothers Discovery, is expected to meet with Paramount CEO David Ellison on Monday and ask him to divest some cable channels and commit to keeping Paramount Studios separate from Warner Brothers as conditions to sell the lawsuit and allow the transaction to move forward. Now, it is unclear exactly what some cable channels mean in this context, or if any of those cable channels will include the ones Paramount is set to acquire from Warner Brothers Discovery should the merger be consummated. In a sports context, Paramount owns CBS Sports Network. Warner Brothers Discovery owns the TNT Sports Networks, which include TNT, TBS, and to an extent, True TV, the former original name for the original Court TV. The lawsuit filed by the 12 state attorneys general argue the merger would create too much concentration in the market for cable networks, the journal reports. Now, there is certainly motivation for Paramount and Ellison to find a path towards settlement. Beginning October 1st, Paramount will owe Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders a ticking fee for each day the transaction is not finalized. That fee amounts to about $650 million per quarter. And should the antitrust case go to trial, which is, I have a feeling, what the AG in California hopes, Paramount would owe over $1 billion in such fees. It doesn't seem likely anything final will be hashed out at Monday's meeting, per Flint and Tunkel. But You never know. The possibility of Paramount investing in some of its cable networks could prove meaningful to sports fans, particularly if CBS Sports Network, TNT, TBS, or True TV are targeted. It's unclear if that would be the case. After all, much of the concern from Bonta and the other attorneys generals is centered on the scripted entertainment business. It could be more likely that networks like Showtime, BET, MTV, or Comedy Central are the cable channels Bonta and company have in mind. If some of Paramount's cable networks do come on the market, it would be very interesting to see which companies come forward as potential buyers. While the cable TV business is in steady decline, these networks still generate significant cash flow from monthly per subscriber carriage fees. To be sure, there's still a long ways to go before Paramount agrees to divest in any of its current or future cable networks, but the possibility appears to be firmly in play pending settlement talks between Paramount and Bonta. And that has put us at the end of the broadcast. We have done it. We're about 28, we'll say about a minute over our allotted time. We want to thank you folks for tuning in. We'll try to do better. That's right, we said it. We will try to do better tomorrow night. And personal note, thank you everybody for your concerns about my health. I'm doing okay. I feel a lot better than I did on Friday and Saturday. But I'm back and I'm glad. Thank you everybody for watching. And thank you to Meta, Nettie, Nancy Nichols, and Donovan. Hopefully I'll see you Monday at J-Town. Until then, I am Steve the Baxman Baxley. This has been a presentation, Mystifying Creativity Productions, in association with the L2C Media Network. We gone. Have a great night and a good morning.